I'm Nicola Tallant, and you're listening to Crime World, a podcast about criminals, drugs, and the sins of the underworld. We're Ireland's top podcast for 2025, and now we've got a new website. So if you want to learn more about crime and criminals, if you want stories, extras, and podcast subscriber specials, go to www.crimeworld.com. That's annoying.
What is?
You rubbing the table like that.
Well, it's okay.
What had you done? I ripped up a piece of paper?
Yeah, because
Because you'd like a sweet or something, would you?
Well, I'm a bit fiddly with my hands.
Yeah.
That actually could sound really badly.
I think we'll leave that in.
Yeah.
So, because I'm usually the one that comes out with things
Yes,
like that,
you
and then
really
I have to reverse ferret. Okay, so subscribers to crimeworld.com will notice that there is a new 6-part deep dive into the Regency 10 years on. The event that changed Irish gangland forever. It's a podcast series. It's available on our website, crimeworld.com. For those of you who don't have a subscription, I'm afraid you'll have to get one to listen. But what we're going to do is we're going to have a little chat about what is in it, and we're going to play then a small extract or a short extract at the end of this podcast. So, right, well, you start. Why did we think it was important to tackle this subject?
Well, obviously a 10-year anniversary is like it's a decade is a long period of time. And I suppose both of us remember the day because we had some degree of role involved in it and the things that happened around.
Do you want to try that again? Because I don't know whether you should say that we had a role in the Regency.
No, we didn't have a role in the Regency because of course that is the conspiracy. But we both remember it well because obviously we were covering it and, we had... so it was a big story.
It was a mad day.
It was a mad day and a big story. But 10 years on, there's also an impact of what has happened. And what has happened has, visibly changed gangland crime in Ireland. And we have just gone through a year, 2025, where there was no gangland murders at all. And a lot of that and those changes, which are cultural and political and policing changes in Ireland, have sprung from the Regency Hotel shooting. So we're looking back both at what happened on the day. We're also, bringing new bits to the circumstances around it, but we're also then trying to look at the bigger picture and why it was, such a watershed moment, I suppose. For
sure. And we know, we have our own experience of the day, and I suppose we're going to be bringing people behind the scenes with us into what was going on and what the thinking was in the immediate aftermath of it, etc. But we are also going to delve into the impact that it's had. You can only really maturely consider something with the passage of time, can't you? And
Absolutely.
it feels like a good time to go, what did that change?
Yeah.
Why do we call it the moment that changed everything? And it did change everything.
Well, it did change everything totally, and those changes are still being felt. Absolutely. We're going to go into another another by-election. And Gerard Hutch is going to be running in that by-election. And the reason he's going to do well, probably won't be elected, but he's going to do well, is again partly because of the Regency. So that impact, and everybody will remember the last general election, which in the fullest of time probably known as the Gerard Hutch election. So that's in the political sphere. But the policing sphere as well has, was absolutely dramatically changed as a result of the Regency.
And it was such a watershed moment really for policing in this country, because there was a lot of accusations that they weren't up for it, that gangland was spiralling out of control, that they hadn't got control of the streets, which of course is what the police exist for. And there was a lot of criticism of them. But, even the plan, the behind the scenes, what they did in that panicked moment, how they initially had to police on the basis of, they were sort of following the crimes, and then they started getting ahead of them. It's interesting to see how long it took, because it wasn't actually very long that it took the Gardaí to get a handle on the situation.
No.
They did that actually pretty quick. It felt like forever at the time. And you can see the period of time when there was an awful lot of activity and a lot of murders were coming fast and furious. You can see how the feud petered out, and then you can see that last sting of the dying wasp.
Yeah.
Before you go into the wider policing plan and the effects that it's had and the ripple effects it's had on many people who've been caught up in it, and how it's still going.
Yes.
You know?
And what it does show really is the power of the state when the state sets its mind to a task. I mean, I think you can criticise the police and everybody, the guards, and everybody's entitled to criticise them. I don't think you can criticise the long-term plan that they put in place, because it absolutely did what it was set out to do, which was dismantle the Kinahan cartel first and foremost. I think it's shown as well that there was a degree of reactive policing, I think, in place, where, you know, they tended to react to events, but you can see that you know, that they had to do certain things and they did do them well. But yeah, the Regency, I suppose, is still obviously. There was a man who lost his life, David Byrne, certainly a key figure in the drug trafficking business.
And that, of course, will be a key anniversary for that family as well, and his children and his parents. His mother is surviving, and, you know, the other relatives of his family. 10 years is a big anniversary.
Of course, and
a long time since you've seen that person, that loved one.
Of course, and each year they've marked it, and, you know, they've suffered great loss. There's no doubt about that. But obviously, Gerard Hutch went on trial, was found not guilty, and he's in a remarkably different position, though not a position without any peril, because there's investigations by the Criminal Assets Bureau and the Spanish authorities. But as we spoke about just yesterday, he's going to be the subject of a play that's going on in Dublin city centre. So I think if you look back on that day in 2016, and if you sat down with your crystal ball, you that's, you know, known that, had knowledge of that world, and said, predict what's going to happen in 10 years, would you have got any of it right?
I would have thought I would have thought that the Kinahans would have been locked up at this stage. That's the thing. The rest of it, I wouldn't have. You know, when you think back to 2016, there was a realisation of how big the Kinahan and powerful the Kinahan mob were. But it was all after that that we began to realise how big they were.
Yeah.
That they had formed this European super cartel, that we started digging into who the partners were within that, the likes of the Ridwan Taghi, the likes of El Rico, the likes of Rafael Imperiale. You know, we move on to those sanctions when we realise that the US Treasury are sanctioning named members of the Kinahans and others, cohorts that have been with them since they left Dublin. I mean, no. I don't think I would have been able to predict very much of it. I would have predicted that they probably, on the basis of the people who fell, the victims, that they would have got near their list of more significant, what they believed were more significant targets, the likes of Patsy Hutch, the likes of Jerry Hutch, and the likes of Mago Gately. What about you?
No, I don't think you could have predicted it, but I think one of the most unpredictable things of it is the fact that that the guards and their ability to solve these murders has been improved so dramatically over the last decade. If you look back, I always remember reporting on Eamon de Don Dunn and a string of murders that he carried out. I think it was something equivalent. 16, 18. Again, it depends on how you categorise them. And if you look back on the number of those that have been solved and people have been convicted of murder, they're really, really low. But what you saw since the outbreak of the Kinahan-Hutch feud, a huge amount of people were convicted, many of them some of them for attempted hits as well. And they didn't just pick up the guy with the gun, they picked up all of these people around them, people that bought, even down to people who bought credit for phones or planted tracking devices. So the world has changed, and yeah, I couldn't have predicted, I think, that we get to 2025 without a gangland murder.
Yeah, for sure. Anyway, the series is there. It's on crimeworld.com. So tune in. On a rainy Friday afternoon back in February 2016, a 6-man hit team stormed the Regency Hotel in North Dublin and opened fire at an international boxing event. Their target was Daniel Kinahan, head of one of the world's most powerful drug cartels. Kinahan managed to escape. However, his loyal lieutenant and leader of his Dublin operation, David Byrne, was not so lucky. His shockingly public execution at the hands of the Hutch gang sparked one of the deadliest criminal feuds ever seen in Ireland. Over the next couple of years, many more men would die, some of them innocent bystanders. But ultimately, the Regency shooting would prove to be the catalyst for finally shattering the Kinahans' vice-like grip on Ireland's booming drugs trade. It's 10 years since the attack that changed everything. Crime World brings you the full explosive story in a brand new 6-part series exclusively available to our crimeworld.com subscribers.